Good morning, everybody, and happy Eid. I hope all of you guys are having a great holiday. Um, Today, I'm going to explain the lesson Languages and Language Diversity. So please open up your books on page 132. Let's take a look at the introductory questions. It says here, before you read, let me just enlarge this. And before the introductory questions, languages. So today we're going to read about what? Languages. That means there are lots of languages. We want to probably, um, know or get to know how many languages there are in the world, if they're from the same family or not, and language diversity, okay? So languages are diverse. Diverse means what? Different, all right? But, and I mean, like, they come from different, let me say, families as well. That's why they are diverse, okay, or different. So there's the same word is said in different languages, all right? So for example, we have the word here, which is in French, bonjour. Then we have it here, the same word, which is like hello, guys. In Italian, here it is. I'm not good in Italian, so I'm not going to read it. Then we have it probably in another language, a third language. I don't know what this language is. I think this is ni hao. And then in German, then in Spanish. So different ways to say hello, right? Um, and as you can see, probably Japanese here. And the one that I'm familiar with is hello, the English one. All right. So you can say the same thing in different languages, the same word, right? You can express it um, using a different sound system, letter system, right? Yeah. Anyway, what languages do you speak? For me, guys, I speak English and Arabic. That's it. I'm a bilingual person. But I don't know about you. You might speak two. You might, like me, you might speak three or four. I don't know. So how is your first language different from English? Like if you consider Arabic to be your first language and English your second, let me say, all right? The second language that you've learned. Anyway, how do these two languages differ from each other? I would say that among the most important differences is that when you write in English, you write from left to right. But when we write in Arabic, guys, we write from right to left, right? Like Arabic is like this way. So, and English is this way, right? Yeah. So, and of course, there are many, many differences between Arabic and English because they don't even come from the same family, as you know, like they're not languages that come from the same family. So there are lots of differences. Um, how many languages do you think there are in the world? I don't know. I Googled it. So I found that this is the number, that I found, 6,500 languages. Okay, let's move on to 133. And as usual, this next question, context clues, we're supposed to know the meaning of the words in bold by using the context clues, that is the words before the word and the words after the word. That is, it's in a sentence, this word, how it is used in a sentence. So the words in bold print below are from this lesson. Yeah, use context clues to guess what each word means. The context clues, as I said, guys, are the what is before and what is after. All languages have rules for forming words and for ordering these words into sentences. So what does forming mean? To form words means to create words, right? Yeah, in order to create certain words, we have to follow what, guys? Rules in that language, whatever that language is. We have to follow a certain order, right? Yeah. Now, sentence 2, people invent new words for their language and borrow words from other languages. So the word borrow, okay, what does that mean? Borrow means to make use of, like to take from somebody, right? This is what to borrow. So you might say that I borrowed my friend's pen. That means you used it. Probably you will return it, right? Let's move on to sentence 3. Languages are now disappearing at a rapid rate. Rate means here what? They're disappearing at a rapid speed. Okay? Yeah. Of course, why they are disappearing, I would say, is that many people are neglecting the use of some language, of some languages, and they're focusing on using others more. 4, experts estimate. What does estimate mean? That the world loses a language every 2 weeks. Can you imagine that, a language is extinct every 2 weeks? Can you imagine that nobody uses it anymore and it dies out? Estimate means calculate or judge, That's what they believe and think based on certain information, okay? يقدر, we say in Arabic. In one study, researchers, this is 5, the last one, looked at bilingual adults. What are bilingual adults? They are adults that, speak 2 languages in an equal manner. That is like they're good in speaking the first language and as good in speaking the second language. Some of the adults learned a second language when they were children, and some learned a second language as adults. What's better? What do you think, guys? To learn a second language when you are a child, or to learn a second language when you're an adult? I'm sure you already have the answer, right? Let's see, like when we read the text itself here, you will see what the answer is, and I bet you already know the answer. We always say in Arabic, العلم في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر, which means, learning a second language as a child is much better than learning it as an adult. It doesn't mean that you cannot learn, as an adult. Of course you can, and you can, develop your learning all the time, but I mean, the beginning phase, of learning is, it's like better to have it during the time you're a child, all right? Just because you have capabilities, you have, cells that are working in your brain that later on probably don't function as an adult, don't function anymore when you're an adult. Now, the title of our lesson is Language and Language Diversity. We said that before, and we want to begin reading the text itself and explaining, parts of it, okay? So, a language, what is a language? It is a system of sounds. Of course, there are sounds, right? Gestures or characters, meaning that gestures could be characters, right? Or used to communicate, or gestures could be like movements in the face, probably, movements in the hands, right? Like when you say no, sometimes your mother is like, she moves her eyebrows, like the eyebrows like this, and you know that it means no. So this is a gesture, all right? Or characters. Sometimes we say, no, 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 no. This is a gesture, okay? So I'm using the sound system, and at the same time, I'm using some gestures, right? Used to communicate ideas and feelings. Of course, the languages are used. Why? In order to communicate what? My idea to you and the way I feel about certain matters. All right? Yeah. So I might ask you in the exam, what is a language? And you give me this answer. A language is a system. Huh? A system. And we said a system is what? We've mentioned the meaning of this word before. That means a set of things working together, right? What are the items and the set of things that are working together? Their sounds, their gestures, their characters, all of these are working together. So a set of items of things, okay? And these things are sounds, gestures, and characters. They are used, why? To communicate ideas and feelings. So this is the definition that you need, this definition you need to know, I'm sorry. There are roughly 6,000 languages in the world today. Some languages are used by millions of people, others have only a few speakers. So I might ask you this question, how many languages are there in the world? And you would give me this answer. Huh? And I might ask you another question, is that, are all languages spoken by the same number of people or used by the same number of people? And you would say, of course not. Some languages have millions of people speaking them, and other languages have only a few speakers. Can you imagine, guys? Yeah. So the languages that have a few speakers, they may, you know, not be, not be operating sometime soon, or not in operation sometime soon. Anyway, let's move on to paragraph 2 now. All languages have rules, of course, for forming words, for making words, for creating words, and for ordering those words into meaningful sentences. Meaningful means that is useful, what people use, okay, used sentences. In written languages, meaning is expressed through a system of characters and rules for combining those characters, of course. So when we talk about the language as written, we have to focus on what? On a system of characters. Characters means letters, guys, okay? And we have to follow certain rules. That is, for example, the subject goes first, then the verb. It depends on the language itself, right? For combining those characters, right? Yeah, that is to put them together, how we put them together. In spoken languages, however, what? Meaning is expressed through a system of sound. So when we speak, we focus on the sound, all right? On sounds. And what else? And rules at the same time for combining those sounds. So when we talk about languages as written, we focus on what, guys? Characters and rules. But when we talk about, speaking, we focus on sounds, and the combination of those sounds. That is how they also using rules as well, okay? Many hearing impaired people, what are hearing impaired people? They're people that are either completely deaf, or deaf, that is they can't hear, or partially deaf. What about them? They use what? Sign languages. That is, sign languages. They use their hands in order to communicate their ideas, and they use their facial expressions to communicate ideas. And with gestures do the work. So gestures here means they use their facial expressions and maybe their hands as well, hand movements, to do the work of the sound system of spoken languages, since they really cannot learn the sounds, and they cannot learn how sounds are combined to communicate a language, because they can't hear. Because, right, how can you combine sounds when you can't hear them anyway, to start with? So they learn what again? Gestures. Like each gesture, means a certain thing, and they make use of these gestures in order to communicate, their ideas and their feelings, okay? Yeah. Let's move on to the next page. So we have now 134. This is a long page, as you can see, and we need to discuss it, break it down, make it easier for you to understand, okay? Let me just enlarge this, and let me, bring this down so we can start from the top to the bottom. So let's read some more. Word order is more important in English than it is in some other languages, such as Russian. In English, it's important to say, she drinks milk. Can you say, drinks she milk? No, of course you not. Of course you cannot. I'm sorry. So this is what it means when the writer says here, word order is important in English, okay? And not only that, it's important, but it's even more important in English than it is that word order is more important in which language? In Russian. It seems that I'm not familiar with Russian. I'm very sorry. I don't know if you know Russian, all right? But maybe those who know can tell us some more about it. But I'm just following on what the writer says. He says that in Russian, it's like kind of accepted to switch the order of words, and then you'd communicate the same idea and it wouldn't be considered wrong. Okay, so in English, that's not okay. It's not okay to say that drinks she milk. No, you have to say she drinks milk, because this is the correct order in order to express what she's gonna do. All right. The sound system is very important in Chinese and in many languages spoken in West Africa. So in Chinese and in some languages in West Africa, the sounds, or the sound system itself, is very important, okay? Because if you probably, switch a sound for another, you might change, the whole meaning of the word. Sometimes even not only in, in Chinese and in, in some African languages, and even in Arabic and in English, but it seems that it's even more important in these languages, you know, because I'm only familiar with English and Arabic. Like if you say something like park, park your car, you know, in the, you know, in the parking lot. All right. Park means to, you know, put it in a certain place so that you can return to it later, to park it, right? Istifaf in Arabic we say. But if you say bark, you cannot say your car. The dog barked last night and I couldn't sleep. You know, I heard a dog barking. Barking means what? The noise or the sound that the dog uses, you know, uses in order to, you know, communicate certain ideas, you know, that's his language, you know. And in Arabic, we call it nubah. So what does nubah have to do with al-istifaf? See, just one sound changed the whole, you know, meaning of the word. Anyway, languages are always changing. So languages change, all languages, whether it's English or Arabic. What does that mean? So how are they changing? If I ask you in the exam, how are languages changing? You tell me. But they change very slowly. So change happens slowly to languages. People invent new words. This is how they change. People invent new words for their language, borrow words from other languages, and change the meaning of words as needed. So if I ask you in the exam, how does a certain language change? You tell me this. You tell me that. It's because, you know, people invent new words and add them into the language. Another thing is that people borrow words from other languages and, you know, they use them in their language. Like we sometimes say bye, and we're, you know, we speak in Arabic and then we say bye, okay? So it's like bye has become an international word. It's Arabic, it's English, it's French, it's, you know, all the, it goes into all the languages now. It's part of all the languages, right? Sometimes we say chauffeur, chauffeur. This is really French originally, you see, and we use it as if it's Arabic, you know? So we borrow some words. Sometimes some words that we have change, right? We change the meaning of them. So for example, in Arabic, there was a time I heard that the word shatir meant something negative, something bad, right? Yeah, like a thief or somebody, something like that. Now shatir means something good, something positive. So if we tell a kid into shatir, he'll like it. For example, let's see their example here. The English word bite. So you've heard you know, this word before, right? Well, this word has to do with the internet, right? Kilobytes was invented by computer specialists in 1959. So this is an invented word and people use it all over the world right now, right? Yeah. So this was invented and now it's kind of used in all languages. The English word tomato, look at this word tomato, was borrowed from what? From which language? Natal, which is an American Indian language spoken in Mexico. All right. So this word tomato was originally what? American Indian or native Indian. Okay. And guess what? It meant a long time ago. It referred to food in general. It meant meat. Can you imagine? Oh, I'm sorry, not meat. Food in general. I'm sorry. Where did I get the word? The English word meat once referred to food in general. This is something different. Okay. So the word meat, a long time ago, when people used to say meat, they meant food, all kinds of food. Now it means, you know, it doesn't mean that. It means like chicken or lamb or, you know, like that. That's what it means, all right? It doesn't mean food in general. Like you cannot say that veggies are included. Okay, let's move on. So I might ask you different kinds of questions here. Like, for example, where did the word tomato come from? What did meat originally mean? For example, how do languages change? You know, these words, okay? They, this pronoun, they, what does it refer to? So it refers to languages, you know, that are changing. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. Let me raise this for you a bit so it could be clearer. There are several major language families in the world. So now we want to talk about what? Language families, all right? The languages in each family are related, okay? Yes, of course, there are some common characteristics, you know, between these languages. And scientists think that that is, you know, the languages that are in the same language family, they come from the same parent family. Language families come in different sizes. So one language family might have, like, look what it says here, 500 languages. See, the Austronesian family, what about it? This is the name of a family of languages. It contains at least 500 languages, including, look, some examples on those languages in the Austronesian family: Filipino, Malay, Maori. Now, the Basque language is spoken in northern Spain, is the only member of its language family. Can you imagine? So there's a language family. They don't mention the name of the language family. It has only one language, which is the Basque language, which is spoken in northern Spain. Can you imagine? So a family that has only one child. It's like a family that has one child. Okay? And here we have a family that has 500 children or 500 languages here. Okay, so if I ask you to give me examples that show that language families come in different sizes, you can mention the Austronesian family, and you can mention, you know, another language family without giving it a name, I'm sorry, which has only the Basque as a language or part of its family. Another family name, this is another family, okay? The Indo-European language family, from Indo, like Indian, and European from Europe, contains how many? 55 languages, so less than the Austronesian. Look, among those languages are English, German, Spanish, Russian, and Hindi. Imagine, guys, that English and Hindi, I did not know that, you know, come from the same language family. That means they have lots of characteristics, you know, that are in common. And also Indo-European languages. Okay. 5 languages including, okay. Another language family is Sino-Tibetan. This is another language family. So far we've mentioned 3 language family: Austronesian, Indo-European, and Sino-Tibetan, okay? So what examples do we have on Sino-Tibetan, or what languages are there that are considered to be part of this family? We have Chinese, Burmese, and Tibetan. Okay, these are languages that belong to this family of languages. The Afro-Asiatic, this is now what? A 4th family. Afro-Asiatic, from African and Asia and Asian, right? Family includes Arabic, Hebrew, and Amharic. So these are languages that, you know, are part of this family, okay? The Afro-Asiatic. There are about 150 American Indian languages spoken today. These languages have many differences among them and have been divided into more than 50 language families. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine, guys? You know, many people think that the Indians of North and South America, you know, speak like one language. No, it turns out that they speak, or they spoke, let me say, because many of them have died, you know, and have been killed, you know. They spoke like over 150 American Indian languages, and imagine that among these 150, they belong to different language families, which makes, you know, these languages very different. See, look, how many language families are they divided into? That is separated into more than 50 language families. Because like I said, many people thought that, you know, Indians spoke the same language. Okay, they did not. It's like they were different tribes and different countries at the same time, you know? Today, 50% of the world's population speaks one of the top 15 languages. So you could guess what these 15 languages are, right? Like probably one of them for sure is English. Another could be what? French, Spanish, you know? German, I would say, all right? And more, of course. The world's most common language is what? That is, you know, it's spoken the most by the majority of people all over the world. It's Mandarin Chinese, or is it like spoken by a great number of people all over the world, which has, look, more than 1 billion speakers. Wow. English is the international language, so it's just popular, all right, for science and business. In fact, English has more second language speakers than first language speakers. So if we want to count all the people that speak English, whether they're second language or first language speakers, it would, like, you know, win, let me say. It would have the majority of people, like a majority of people would be people who speak English. But I mean, most of these people are second language speakers, so sometimes that does not count. All right. So people learn languages how? How do people learn language? If I ask you, how do people learn languages? You tell me by listening, by reading, and by actually using the language. Okay, so many people are like afraid to use the language because they think that they're not good enough. But guess what, guys? Even if you make mistakes, use it. Use the language because that's the best way really to, learn the language. Try listening first, try doing some reading, but at the same time, use it even if you make mistakes because that is the way that you learn a language. So some people want to learn how to drive, right? So what do you do on the first day when you want to learn how to drive? Don't you sit in the car in the driver's seat and drive? It's the same when it comes to any kind of skill or when you want to learn anything. You're going to make mistakes, it's fine. So slow down, don't rush it, but that's just the way that you learn anything, all right? Most children learn their first language easily and sometimes other languages as what? So 134, we need to find 135. Where is 135? Here we go. Let me just flip this and enlarge this. Okay. Well, adults often must work harder at learning a second language. So it's like we're comparing now between children and adults. So for children, it's easier to learn a second language, you know, and it is even said that they learn a second language just like their first language, it's as easy as the first language. While for adults, it's harder to learn a second language. They can learn it, doesn't mean they can, but it's just what? Harder. Let's see why it is harder for adults to learn a second language while it is easy for a child to learn a second language. Let's see. So it says here, recent research indicates means shows that a child's brain, this is the brain, right? So it's, a faculty that we all have, right? And it helps us learn, right? Things, okay. A child's brain actually learns a new language differently than an adult's brain does. So they don't use the same methods in order to learn. Can you imagine? In one study, scientists used a special machine to look at the brains of bilingual adults, adults that speak, two languages. Some of the adults learned a second language when they were children, and some learned a second language as adults. What do you think is better? The adult who learned the second language when he was a child or she was a child, or the adult who learned the second language when he was an adult? Of course, we all agree that it's when he was a child. Why? Because the study said here that they learn in using different methods and ways. It's not like they can control it, guys. They can't control it. It's something that has to do with the brain, okay? All right. The study showed that children use the same part, this is why, see, of their brain to learn both the first language and a second language. Adults, on the other hand, are different. When we see on the other hand, we know they have a different method of learning, used a different area of their brain to process. To process means to learn the second language. This is why. See, children use a part of their brain, in order to learn a second language, and the same part, I mean, to learn the first and the second. While as an adult, it seems that that place closes, closes down and no longer there, to be used. And so as adults, when they learn a second language, they don't use that same area anymore. It's probably closed, not there, not available. And so that makes all the difference. Imagine, guys. Let's take a look at the last paragraph. So languages have come and gone in the past, but they are now disappearing at a rapid rate. So things are getting worse, right? For languages, they are disappearing at a rapid rate number, like probably. They here refers to what? To languages, all right? Experts, what about experts? Specialists. Estimate means judge and or calculate that on average the world loses a language every 2 weeks. So this is repeated, guys. It was mentioned before. Some linguists, people who are experts, on languages or language, a certain language. Some linguists believe that half of the world's languages, what about them? Could disappear. Imagine half in the next 100 years if we don't do anything. Okay, that is if we don't practice them, we don't, you know, teach them, we don't learn them, let me say, they would be rough. That would be roughly 3,000 languages lost forever. Imagine, guys. Should we let that happen? I don't think we should let that happen, because languages help us, you know, learn about many, 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 many things. For example, they carry civilizations, all right? They carry a lot of important information that we could benefit from, as you know, the whole human race could benefit from. All right, so now we are done with the text itself, and I hope you understood, you know, it. And if you still have some questions, maybe when we meet next time, okay, you can tell me what is hard on you and what needs further explanation, okay? Now we want to move on to the vocabulary exercises, and let's make sure we know the meanings of these words before we use them to complete these sentences, all right? So we have the word systems. We already mentioned what this means. And systems means what? A set of things working together as parts of a mechanism, okay? So things that work together and they make this whole thing to, you know, this whole thing that, you know, like an organization, or, you know, a whole body, a body of something, right? Yeah, that's what a system is, or systems here in the form of a plural. Then we have borrow. I think we mentioned this before. Borrow. Come on, in Arabic, guys, this means أنظمة, right? Yeah, borrow means يستعير, to use, and probably return, maybe not. Past, past as in the past, في الماضي, right? That is something that happened, all right? Yeah. To express, you know, something that happened, let me say, in the past when we say. Characters, we said that characters here in this context meant letters. Specializes means to be an expert in a certain field, or to, you know, yeah, basically that's what specializes, like, you know, to be an expert in a certain field, all right? Yeah, متخصص in Arabic we say. Rate in English we said speed. معدل in Arabic. Form, to create. يعني يشكل in Arabic we say. Refer to, يشير إلى in Arabic. In English it means to mention. Estimate, I think we mentioned this before, means to judge, to calculate. Meaningful, something that has meaning, that's used, right? And divided means to be separated. And linguists are people who know so much about a certain language, all right, or information about a certain language. Okay, let's complete these sentences. There are many different writing what systems. The English language uses the Roman alphabet, so lots of writing systems, because there are lots of what? Languages. Lots of languages means, you know, each language has its own writing system if it is spoken and written at the same time, right? Now, sentence 2, a dermatologist, you know, somebody who's an expert, you know, on skin, or in, you know, knows what, you know, how to deal with skin, or has studied skin. A dermatologist is a doctor who specializes in what? In problems of the skin, right? I think all of us have, you know, visited a dermatologist at least one time in our lifetime. The United States is what? Divided into 50 states, right? Divided, separated into 50 states. In the past, a long time ago, 50 years, in the past 50 years, what happened, guys? The population of the world has increased rapidly. We spoke about that, right? All right. Can I what? Borrow your pen? Your friend might tell you this, or you know, ask you this question. Your pen for just a minute. So we want to move on to page 136. Where is 136? Let's try to find it. Here we go. Let's enlarge it and try to do the other, complete the other sentences. So it's much easier to what? To form, that is to create, to make wet snow into balls than to use dry snow. Of course, yes, it's easier to use wet snow than dry snow. In some countries, students, what do? They refer to their professors by their first names. Of course, that does not work in Jordan, guys. All right. Refer to that as, they, use their first names. Then we have 8, Noam Chomsky. All of us know who this man is, a professor at MIT. MIT means what? It stands for, I think, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I looked it up. I'm sorry, but that's what I did. Is one of the most famous linguists in the world. Okay, so he is very well known all over the world. A team of workers can build a car at a faster speed. Of course, a team of workers can, than people working alone. So if you're one person doing a project like this, like building a car, if you're on your own, it's going to take you a long time. But if you are with a team, I bet you will finish at a faster speed, right? Yeah. The word diversity has 9 characters. 9 characters means letters. So if you count them, they are 9. Let's move on to, the same kind of exercise, but it's B. So we have words, as you can see here. We know most of them. We've discussed them before. So rate, brain, past. We've mentioned them. We've discussed their meanings. Estimate, specialist, system, meaningful, reference. Reference means from refer, like we mentioned, refer to, right? So it's really, from the same root. Reference means the action of, mentioning or alluding to something. Okay. Then we have characters. We've mentioned this: bilingual, divide, linguistics. So they're not new to us, really. These words, they are repeated. I'm sorry. And let's use them to complete these sentences. The best way to become bilingual is to live in a foreign country, of course. Take a child to a foreign country, and that's just gonna, work 100%. All right. Because you're forced to learn the language. Nobody speaks the language that you spoke before. And, I remember this happened to me. And so you're forced to look for words, use the words. I don't know. It just, in Arabic, we say al-haja al-ikhtira, right? Yeah. 2, his friends began to worry about him when he said that there was no longer anything meaningful in his life. We should always find meaning in our lives, because this is what allows us to want to live, to continue to live. Yeah, we should always, this motivates us to live and, work. All right. So, but when somebody says there's nothing meaningful in my life, so we feel that this person is letting go of life, or, about to commit suicide. And we don't want that to happen with anybody. And that's why his friends would, worry about him, somebody who would say something like this, right? If you want to study how people learn languages, you should take a linguistics course, because, in this course, the course on linguistics, your professor might teach you about how people learn languages, okay? Motorcyclists, people who ride motorcycles, they're called motorcyclists. What do? They wear a helmet. We've taken we've taken this word before. A helmet is something that you wear on your head. Why? Look, why? To prevent brain injury in an accident, because you never know. You might have a motorcycle accident, and when you get injured, you need to you need to be wearing, a helmet that protects your head, your brain from any kind of injury, right? Let's hope that no accident happens, but what if it happens? You never know. 5, I don't know the exact population of my city, but I estimate that there are about 2 million people. I estimate, like I would guess, I would calculate, I would think and judge, based on, the numbers that I see, information that I've read, probably, right? Now 6, my dentist said that I need to go to a specialist to get my tooth fixed. So it seems that this dentist is like a general dentist or something of that kind. And he thinks that, this patient has to go to somebody who is more specialized to get, his or her tooth fixed. All right. Yeah. 7 now. During the president's speech, Trump's speech. Oh, It's not Trump because we have she, right? So that's somebody we don't know about, you know. So during the president's speech, she made what? Reference to an important new medical study. So reference, I mean, she alluded to, she mentioned, right? Like, an important study, that is medical, let me say. Let's move on to 8. The computer system for the whole office was down for 2 days. Was down, that is, it was not working, okay? And this happened before at Yarmouk University. They usually send us emails telling us that the computer system would be down for some time and so on. 9, when you exercise, your heart rate, معدل نبض القلب rate, goes up. That's true. So when you exercise, you start, your heart starts pounding faster, faster, right? Yeah. All right. Now we want to move on to the last sentence here, which is 10. We had such a large class that the instructor had to divide it up into 3 groups. Yeah, large classes sometimes, kind of affect the students' learning. They can't learn very well because, they get distracted because of the number. And it's hard for the teacher, himself or herself, to control such large classes. So yeah, the instructor decided here to what? To divide that class, the class into 3 groups, maybe to make learning easier. Yeah. We still have more exercises here. We have page 137. I guess this is the last one for today. All right. So in our next lesson, we will finish up the rest of the exercises, which are 138, 139, 140, 141. Oh, we still have a lot to do, and 142. All right. So, but for today, I guess, this is going to be our last page. All right. So I think we've taken an exercise like this before. Vocabulary review, antonyms. Match the words that mean the opposite. So we said antonyms and opposites are the same in terms of meaning. So we want to match this word with its opposite. For example, the word harmless. Something is harmless. So what is its opposite? Okay, harmless. Negative, full, certainly, often, student, request, calm, land, clear. Hazardous, drop. Harmless, something that does not harm you. So hazardous, J, is its opposite because hazardous means dangerous. It's the exact opposite. Okay, how about 2? Instructor. Instructor means somebody who teaches you, a teacher, right? What is the opposite of instructor? Okay, let's take a look. What do we have here? Let's stop here. Student. So you can say this is an antonym for instructor. Student and instructor are, opposite. They're not the same thing. 3, once in a while. Once in a while. Not yani like every long time, this thing probably happens, or once in a while this takes place. So let's take a look. Once in a while, its opposite is often, because often means like maybe, not every day, every other day probably, but once in a while, every long time. So they are opposites, okay? Lift, to lift something, to lift it up like this, the opposite of it is what? To what? Drop it, to make it fall, okay? Here it is, K. Maybe means what? Maybe yes, maybe no, I'm not sure. Its opposite is what? Certainly, that means for sure. Certainly means for sure. Al-akid, we say in Arabic, right? Then we have terrify, means to scare, right? Terrify. Don't terrify that baby. Don't scare that baby, right? What is the opposite of to terrify? That is to calm, to make the person relaxed and calm and peaceful, right? Yeah. Then we have the word empty. Maybe I have a box which is empty, right? What is the opposite of being empty? Like having nothing in it, right? The opposite of it is full. Meliane, right? We say in Arabic. And then we have the word positive. I bet you know this one. Positive. Its opposite is what? Let's look for it. Negative, the first one. All right. Then we have demand. To demand is like to order something, to want it, to say that you really need it right now. Like, okay, like to, like a command, all right? So what is the opposite of to demand something? That is what? Request. Request is like, to ask for something politely and you wish it would be available, but if it's not, then it's okay. All right. So there's a difference in terms of meaning here. So the word take off, the plane took off. That is, woo, أقلعت, we say, take off. And then we have the opposite of it is to land, الهبوط, we say in Arabic, right? So let's move on to the next exercise. The next exercise has to do with what? The lesson that we've read, the lesson that we've discussed now, all right? So now we have to remember what we read, what we discussed, and we want to, mark these sentences as true or false, and maybe not enough information if necessary, all right? Like if there isn't enough information in the text, we can say not NI, that is not enough information, or NE, I don't know. We don't know the exact number of languages used today. It's not in the text, honestly speaking. I Googled it, okay? So if you want to, you can just put not enough information. This, you can write it down, okay? You can put it here. Or you can just Google it and, just say false because we do know, but we didn't know this answer because of the text. We knew it because we Googled it, okay? So don't worry about this sentence, all right? Word order is the same in all languages. Is that true? No, it's not. Okay, so this is not true. The text itself said that for some, languages, word order is very important. For others, it's not that important, but still, word order is, that means it's not the same in all languages. When we say that, it's important in some languages, very important, and in other cases, it's in other languages, let me say, it's not that important. So that means there is a difference, and it's not the same. There is more than one kind of sign language. Okay, I would say yes, because if we go back to the text, it is said here that many hearing impaired people use sign languages, which means there's more than one kind. Okay, since it came in the plural. All right, now for many hearing impaired people use a sign language. Of course, that's true. They do use a sign language. Okay, people who are deaf or partially deaf use a sign language. 5, many food words in English come from other languages. Well, I don't know about the word many, but some food words come, well, let's accept it, okay? Because, when you go to America, you might eat different, kinds of food that are that are French, Italian, Jordanian, whatever, and so they use the same, words, or let me say the same names for the food. They don't change it or something of that kind. So yeah, let's go with true. A language family can be small or large. That's true. We said that. Remember, we said that one language family had, I think, 5,000 languages, and another had just one. Remember? So yeah, can be small, and very large. Okay, let's move on to 7. So true. There is nothing we can do to prevent the loss of half the world's language. Of course, that's not true. False. We can do something about it. Of course, the text does not say what we can do exactly, all right? But the text says we must do something, and that means that there is something to be done. Now we can think about things that we can do in order not to lose our language. That is, to practice all the languages that you know, to encourage people to learn, other languages. Okay. Yeah. So these are ways in which we can, prevent losing, languages. More people speak Chinese than any other language. That is true. So we said that, if you take a look at page 134, Mandarin Chinese is like the most common language, and it's spoken by 1 billion people. 50% of the world's population speaks Chinese. No, they did not say 50%. They just mentioned the number of people. That is not, they didn't say it's 50% though. So false. Adults or the text, I mean, did not say 50%. Adults and children use different parts of their brain to learn a second language. 100% true. They don't use the same part of the brain to learn a second language. And that's it for today, guys. You have a great day. And I hope that I've taught you, a thing or two today. And we will meet next time. Goodbye.